Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com. Welcome back, and this is a tutorial on adding filters to your file chooser dialogues. So at the moment, if I run my application and I go to File, Export Data, it allows me to select any file, but I want to narrow this down so that I can only export or save or import certain kinds of files with certain particular extensions. So to do that, let's go to where I create my file chooser in mainframe here, and that's where I'm creating the file chooser. And I'm going to say file chooser dot add, and it's add. I think it's add. Actually, I always forget this, but let's take a look here. Add choosable file filter. There we go. And add choosable file filter accepts objects of type file filter, which is an abstract class. So I have to implement my own file filter there, and I'm going to do that now. So let's go to new class, and I'll call this person file filter, because this application kind of allows you to enter personnel details. So I'll call this person file filter, and I'm going to make that the superclass of that file filter, the abstract file filter class. And let's add the import. And now if I click on this error message here in Eclipse, I can add unimplemented methods. And there are only two methods that you need to implement. There's the accept, which determines it returns true if you want to accept the file and allow the user to select it, or false if you don't. And the description returns a description of the kind of file that this file filter filters on. So in my description here, I'm going to say return, and I'll return a string that says person database files. How's that? And in brackets I'm just going to put the filter, and let's say that this application uses files with an extension of PER, completely arbitrary, PER standing for person, of course. And now here, so I've got my file as the argument here to accept, and I need to do something with that. And what I'll do is I'll get their file name, so I'll say string name equals file.getName, and I want to check the extension of this file name here. And you could write some just string handling stuff here, but I've actually already written a little utils class here that has a static method. And what this does is, you can find it, by the way, you can find a very similar thing if you search for Visual Guide Java components or Visual Guide Swing components in Google, and go to the file chooser page there, you can see that they've actually created a utils class that's pretty similar to this. But what I've done is I've got the last index of the dot, full stop, in the file name, and I've said if that's equal to -1 return null, because if last index of returns -1, it means it doesn't find the dot anywhere in the given string. And then I say if the point index is equal to name.length -1, it means the dot's right at the end of the string, it means the file has no extension basically, so I return null. Otherwise I return name.substring, and I return the first character of the substring is just after where the full stop or period is found, and the last character is going to be right at the end of the string, so you pass in name.length, because substring doesn't actually include the character at this index, it includes characters up to this index here. So in my person file filter, now I can say string extension equals, and I can just use my utils class method there, get file extension from the string, so return me all the stuff after the last dot in the file name, and if the extension is equal to null, of course, then that's no use to me. So return false. It means it doesn't have an extension. Else, I can say if extension dot equals, and let's just say I only want it if I only want to accept the file if the extension is PER, then I can say return true. And now where I create the file chooser here, I can say new person file filter, just pass in an object of that class there. And if I run this now, and I do either export or import, you can see it says person database files star.pair, which is a string that I added to my file filter. And it's going to filter, it's only going to let me select files with a PER extension. And if you want more than one filter, of course, then you need to do add choosable file filter multiple times with different filters that you've designed. But here I just want to filter purely on PER. So I've actually created a file with a PER extension at the moment. And one problem you can see here is that I can't actually select directories, which is completely useless, because how can I browse the files that I want? And to get around that, you need to say here in your file filter, if file.isDirectory, then you always want to return true, like this. So now if I run this and I do file export data, let's say, then I can browse to see, and in my docs folder here, so it's now showing the directories, I created a test.pr, and I can select that, and at the moment it's just outputting the thing I've selected down here. So that's it for this tutorial. One thing that I'm not going to go through in this series of tutorials that you can find on the JFileChooser page of the Visual Guide Swing Components page is you can actually add custom panels to your file choosers to show like a display of your file, but I'm not going to make use of that here. I'll leave you to look into that for yourself, and in the next tutorial we're going to look at something that's not really Swing specific, but it's extremely useful if you're designing Swing applications, and that's, we're going to talk a bit more about the model view controller architecture, and in particular we're going to implement a data model here so that I've got somewhere to actually store my database of people details. So join me again next time, and until next time, happy coding.